Welcome back, everybody, to Brazilian Dragontober here on the Brazilian Dragon Podcast, and a happy spooky season to you all. My name is Felipe, and today I am dressed up as Sheen Estevez, and I'm not alone. I am joined by the great Mark, who is dressed up as Carl Weezer, specifically Vampire Carl. Mark, how are you doing? Welcome back.
I'm doing great, Felipe. Thanks for having me. I was going to be Llama Boy, but the cape was too big.
The cape was too big, yes. Do you love a good cape?
Who doesn't love a good cape? That should be a
Edna
badge
Mode.
fashion.
Edna Moan doesn't love a good cape. She says, no cape, no cape.
No capes.
Yes. So she's the only one who might not like a cape, but Carl Weezer loves a good cape. But yeah, do you have any Halloween activities that you love to do every Halloween? This is the spooky season after all.
Now, granted, I watch horror movies and play horror games all year round, but that special time during October, oof.
Do you have your Halloween costume prepped and ready to go this year?
So I got a new dog during the summer. I named her Car after Supergirl, so I prepped her costume. She'll be, of course, Supergirl. So do I be Superman?
I think you should. Or you could be Crypto.
So I'm the one dressed up as a dog.
Yeah, you should. It should be like uh species swap.
Is
So
that the
she's the
is that the
human,
theme
you're the
here's
dog.
Halloween?
I don't know. I don't know. Are you like a big trick or treater, or are you more just like you chill at home and have the children get candy from your apartment?
I don't get that many trick or treaters, so honestly, like maybe because I'm an adult now, but like November 1st, like when all the Halloween candy goes on discount, that's where it's at.
That is a great time of year. Do you have a favorite Halloween candy?
Reese's.
Reese's. You love that peanut butter
Love
and
that peanut butter
chocolate.
chocolate. Ooh,
Get the girls some peanut butter and chocolate, Jeff.
I'm looking.
Yeah.
I'm looking.
Not Butch, not Butch. Yeah, so today we are going to talk about the Jimmy Neutron Halloween special, A Nightmare on Retroville. Now, this is not Mark's first time on the podcast, but it is his first time in a hot minute. However, previously to his latest appearance, we did cover Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. So, Mark, have you consumed any Jimmy Neutron since we podcasted about the film maybe
You
2 years
know,
ago?
it's just random clips on YouTube. No full on episodes, but it's one of those like rabbit holes like you see a TikTok and then everything else
Hmm.
falls.
Yes. And I remember you are a big Hugh Neutron guy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I have called him a himbo dilf that we stand.
Yes. Do you remember his obsession with the octopus movie that we'll discuss?
Of course, bananas and octopus. This guy.
Yes. I was surprised he didn't want to be a duck, because he loves the ducks. And I did love the sugar booger because we love when he calls Judy sugar booger. It just took me back to childhood. I don't know about you, but it just was so easy to watch. It was so stress free. I was smiling the whole time watching this episode. And I think it's because, like, as adults, when we were kids, we didn't have to worry about anything. We didn't have to worry about bills, about stressors, about any, like, just childhood. And Nickelodeon was just like a good time. And maybe I'm just remembering the happy moments, but as an adult, there's so much out there that can be so doom and gloom that this just put a smile on my face and took me back to when I was 7 years old.
Let me just say this. In the year 2024, Jimmy Neutron has aged. A lot about Nickelodeon has not.
Sir. Woo. One of my goals at the start of the year was to read 6 books. Physically, I technically have listened. I've consumed 5 books this year, if you count an audiobook, a comic book, and a graphic novel. Um, but no, I can look at how many I've consumed. But I've consumed one, two, three, four, five, six books this year. One of them was an audiobook, but one of the books that I did read cover to cover was Jeanette McCurdy's autobiographical memoir. And just to go back to your previous point, yes. Um,
Yes.
yes, that is a show that did not age well. Jimmy Neutron, aged pretty well. SpongeBob aged pretty well for the most part. But some of the more like teen comedies, unfortunately, we don't have that same luxury, or it's just like there's a dark cloud around it. Even if it did age fine, it feels like there's a dark cloud around it because we know more about the behind the scenes drama.
Oh yeah, I mean, Jimmy Neutron's animation, yeah, probably not aged well, but it's like, what's the Jimmy Neutron controversies? None.
Um, that Jimmy was a little sexist at times.
Oh yeah, but other than that, eh, kind of grasping at straws.
Yeah. Um, he, I really wanted to be Jimmy when I was a kid, but the older I get, the more I realize I'm Sheen, right? Because, first of all, Sheen, nerdy Latino boy, and he scores the baddest B in all of Retroville, and that is what I aspire to. I want a mean girl who like I know I'm the nerdy golden retriever type boyfriend. That's I think I aspire to be Sheen Estevez, married to a Libby. What was Libby's last name?
I just call her
Full
Queen.
facts. Full facts. Yes, Queen.
But as I realized, like I wanted to be Jimmy, like smart wise, but I'm totally cool being a Carl.
I feel like as adults we are more Sheen and Carl, but also sometimes Jimmy. I feel like we all have like for whatever our obsession is. I feel like everyone has an obsession. Pop culture wise, I feel like everyone geeks out about something, and I feel like in everyone's like pocket of identity that they consume. I don't know if that's a phrase that makes sense, but if, in everyone's like favorite pastime, there's someone who will be like the Jimmy, the know-it-all. Like for you, I'm sure like you know a lot about comics, and then when someone's like, "I'm a super fan," but then they misappropriate a fact, you're like, "Excuse you," in your head, but because you're a polite king, you don't say it out loud. But for me, like when someone says something wrong about something that I'm really passionate about, like Glee or Survivor, and I know they're wrong, it like takes a lot in me to like stay quiet because I very much can identify with Jimmy. Like, actually,
Actually,
yes,
I wonder if there is a BuzzFeed quiz of, I mean, there has to be, of which Jimmy Neutron character are you?
yes. Who would you want to be? Would you want to be like one of the core five, or would you want to be like, would you want to be Judy because you're with Hugh?
I think I just want to be Hugh.
Hugh, yeah. One of my favorite like listen, this is not the most appropriate joke in a 2024 lens, but when he was like, it all began when I was 8 years old and I sat on a banana.
No, I think that's actually aged well in 2024. He's discovering himself. He's open.
Oh, I thought I interpreted it as a much darker version of that joke, where it
H-
wasn't
How dark?
very dark. Like
Oh,
I like your more wholesome approach. Let's pivot my mind to your wholesome approach of how he was exploring himself, because I like that version much better than my messed up version, worst case scenario version.
I mean, this is a spooky October month. So, how
Yes.
spooky do you want to go, Felipe?
I think we should talk about Jimmy Neutron, Halloween, and like what your favorite Halloween pastimes were when you were a kid. Did you have any go-to specials that you would watch? Did you watch like any specific episodes on repeat? Like, what was a day in October like for a young Mark?
Now, of course, it's for YouTube. But if I had the option as a kid, did you ever watch Boy Meets World?
I've seen an episode or two, but I wasn't like a religious consumer.
I wouldn't say religious, but the one episode that I loved, and my
Isn't that one
sister
super
loved,
spooky?
and then there was Sean.
I heard that one's super duper spooky.
They're all in detention, and then they get killed off one by one. It turns out to be a dream, but still.
Yeah, I I've never seen it. Should I consume it?
Yes, even if you don't know the episode, like the show, I feel like you should watch it. As if you are a fan of slasher movies, audience like Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, you're gonna love this.
Yeah. Um they they really teetered the line between like kids horror with some of these, and not this one specifically, but I feel like there were some specials that really teetered the line between kids horror and like camp, because with a kids medium, it's always like you need to make sure it's tame, tame, tame. Because I was an anxious kid, and if they pulled any shenanigans on me, I would have been up for years, let alone days.
You know what actually scared me as a kid on Nickelodeon? Do you remember Scaredy Camp?
No, I do not. Do you want to remind me?
So Scaredy Camp was an a la like game show, reality show. So I think it was only for 2 seasons, and each season they would have like a couple kids in this camp, split up into two, and the whole season they were trying to solve like the mystery of like this murder at the camp or some ghost. And I don't know why, because you look back and it's like pretty cheesy and not that scary. It's basically like Nickelodeon saw Survivor. It's like, okay, they'll do Survivor challenges, and the winner gets like a little clue to the mystery. So, but as a kid, I don't know why the intro just kind of freaked me out.
Nickelodeon, I feel like no, because Cartoon Network had stuff like Courage the Coward, the Dog, and Billy and Mandy, but I feel like Disney Channel was probably the tamest one.
Oh
Because
yeah.
yeah, Nickelodeon like loved to go for a good like edgy humor, and I feel like they tried to push the same boundaries with scaring.
Now I don't know when I was going to mention this, but there was this Halloween block or tradition for like 17 years. Now, I'm not going to say what it was on Nickelodeon. Do you know what I'm referring to?
I know there's Disney Channel Monstober, but
So they had like this contest that ran for 17 years, like from the late 80s, and the latest one was like 2002. So kids would call up, they would say the phrase, and if they won, they got like this big prize. I think the last time they did it, like some of the people from all that, like this revival of it, got to trick or treat with the winners, like Hershey bars and all that. And you might say, like, oh, what's the problem? Well, the phrase. So it was based on trick or treat, but they replaced the trick with Nick. Now I want you to just say that in your head. Yeah.
yeah, that's probably not appropriate.
And the whole commercial, they would say that over and over. And it's like, oh my God. Like, you can tell, like, Nickelodeon did not have any diversity in their advertisement at all.
Nope. You could say a lot of companies still could work on that.
Oh, yeah. But just like, there wasn't one person be like, hey, guys, do you know what this sounds like?
Yeah, I feel like more uh, panels or like feedback opportunities are necessary sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, do you want to get into the episode itself? Like, do you remember this episode from your childhood?
I do. I mean, the general basis of the gang gets turned into monsters. I remember Carl was a vampire, Sheen was a werewolf, Jimmy was the uh, tentacle monster, and
I forgot
doing
about the
all that.
tentacle octopus thing. Like, I vaguely remember this was episode that I feel like I don't remember as well as other episodes.
Mhm.
I remember when I was thinking about the Jimmy Neutron Halloween episode, I was thinking about the ghost story one where the pillow monsters attack and they're
Oh,
having a
was that the
sleepover.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
that's
that
what
was
I thought
when
that one was gonna be, but no, it was different. So I vaguely remember this one, but it's not one that sticks out. Like for me, I feel like I remember more Jimmy Neutron big event movies, like the Jet Fusion one, like the game show one where they parody Survivor, the original
Mhm.
Jimmy Neutron movie, the one where the Yolkians return, have the big giant chicken, of course, Timmy Power Hour. But this one, like episodes, I think are more foggy. Like there's of course standout ones. Um, but would you rather be a vampire or a werewolf?
That is tough. I mean, vampire, very strict diet, can't go outside, but eternal youth, werewolf, fleas. Ugh. Actually, you know what? Vampire.
I feel like if you were to cast both of us in a movie, one of us had to be a vampire, one of us had to be a werewolf. I feel like they would pick you as vampire and me as werewolf.
You're hairy and I'm very pale, so this no discussion.
Yeah. Um, in terms of the monsters that you saw on the wheel, were there any more that were standouts? Like one of them looked not like I need to look at this wheel closer because there was someone that looked more like Michael Jackson than an actual monster.
That is what the trivia says. Like it's above the werewolf, and it's a picture, a cartoon picture of Michael Jackson. And that's what it said on the trivia. And I'm watching back. I'm like, no, that can't be. And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, ooh.
It was. Do you remember? Did you ever watch Total Drama?
Of course.
Yes. Do you remember that Duncan Sphere was the Celine Dion cutout?
Yeah.
That was kind of what it was giving. Like, because Jimmy Neutron has a very interesting, bulbous, artistic style, if you will. And that's what it was giving with that. Now, do you know what the movie that he was watching that was supposed to be a parody of?
Uh, no, I kind of took it as like it's a parody of like the genre movies of like the big giant creatures, like I think them, like the giant like ant movies. Or probably like a
Like them?
them or like a kaiju movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was also like, of course, Godzilla came to mind with the like giant. I feel like that's like I always associate anything taking over the world or town as like Godzilla adjacent. King Kong also for although I hated Godzilla versus Kong. Did you watch that one?
Did you hate it both or just the first one?
I hated the one that came out this year, Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire.
Oh yeah, I mean it was just
They destroyed Rio de Janeiro. Like how dare they? It was upsetting.
I mean, out of all the places in the world.
The audacity. How dare they? But yeah, do you want to start recapping the episode? This is going to be Nightmare in Retroville, season 2, episode 8. And we see that Goddard is making a jack-o'-lantern. Are you a big jack-o'-lantern guy?
In terms of looks and decor, yes. In terms of actually making one, no.
I have made a handful of jack-o'-lanterns when I was a kid. And again, I like the decor. I like pumpkins. I love eating pumpkin, like pumpkin pie, pumpkin, like mashed pumpkin, like so many good pumpkin spice. We love all the pumpkinness.
We're basic.
Yes. But I feel like a jack-o'-lantern, at this point in time when I'm an adult, I don't have the time. Maybe when I have kids, I'll make jack-o'-lanterns with them. But at this point in my life, I do not have the time nor the energy to make jack-o'-lantern. So I appreciate everyone who does. It just cannot be me.
I mean, I've got offered by my nieces and nephews, like, hey, do you want to come over and make jack-o'-lanterns with us? I'm like, no.
You're like, I'd rather lay in bed and watch
That's
Jimmy
it.
Neutron.
I just want to lay in bed.
Carl says he's going to be Llama Boy for Halloween, and this year he's going to be a little different because he's going to wear a cape. And then Jimmy and Sheen were like, "Weren't you Llama Boy for the last 8 years?" And also, Llama Boy ain't really scary, just creepy. Do you have anything to add to this statement before I go to my tangent?
Is your tangent of what do you think Llama Boy looks like?
No, my tangent was one of my favorite episodes was when they go into the llama video game. Or the
Oh,
Ultraloid video game and they like sync it up. Do you remember that one where like they're in the video game and like Carl puts in the llama disc also overriding the Ultralord game?
yes.
What was your question? What does Llama Boy look like?
I always thought like it was basically like a Superman outfit, but it was just like a llama's head.
Yeah,
That's scary.
indeed. Is there is Crypto the super pet version of Superman?
Basically,
Like
yeah.
there's no llama, super llama, there's no super octopus,
There's a monkey.
a super monkey.
I don't know even what the character is, very obscure, but there is a monkey in there.
Okay, good to know. Um, We see the children walk by Hugh, who's watching his favorite 1950s movie, Octopus Man, to which Carl asks Jimmy what he will be this year, and he asks among them Albert Einstein, jet fusion, or Stephen Hawking. And Jimmy's like, I'm not going to trick or treat this year since Halloween's kind of for kids, even though Shane and Carl are like, but we are kids. How did you feel about all this? Because I'm with Shane and Carl. Like, go be a kid.
Also, speaking of 2024, crazy how one of those costumes is canceled.
Yeah, yeah. You shouldn't. You shouldn't.
Now, beforehand, it's like, oh, don't go at Stephen Hawking. You're making fun of someone who's disabled. And now it's like, well, let's just say Hawking went to some islands.
Mm. Yeah. Do you how do you approach the people who are kind of like buzzkills around any sort of activity, but let alone like Halloween as an example?
Why be a buzzkill?
Yeah.
There's no time.
No time at all. Yeah. Let people be chilling as they be. Don't yuck people's yums.
And so Jimmy does want to go out for trick or treating. I do respect the hustle, but we'll get to that till later to get the candy. But it's like, come on, just have fun with your friends.
I agree wholeheartedly. The three of them go to Jimmy's lab next, where Jimmy's like, "This is my neutronic monster maker, and it will change everybody's DNA to resemble the monster of their choice." Carl chooses vampire, Sheen chooses werewolf, even though Jimmy has 102 options on that wheel, which does not make sense physically because that wheel was not that big.
No, and it's like, if they're all scary, like, what do you think the other choices are? I mean, one of them is apparently Michael Jackson. That's very odd.
Yeah. And this was like 2004, so it's like, how many kids are dressing up as Michael Jackson?
I don't know the whole timeline of the MJ stuff, but I feel like I feel like they were dressing up as him, but who knows?
Yeah. Well, Jimmy wants half their candy, and then they turned into monsters. They use the hover car to go trick or treating, and they end up going to Principal Willoughby's house first and get enough candy for them for weeks. Principal Willoughby, is he a friend of Dorothy?
He is such a big fan. He is a friend of Dorothy. I didn't take notes, but that was the one thing of like, oh, this is
I
a
did
really
not
good
remember
character.
that man was that much of a homosexual. But happy Bisexual Awareness Month to all who might celebrate. It is September when we're recording this, even though this will come out in October. But Principal Willoughby, very much a friend of Dorothy.
Oh yeah. He has been this.
And he is an out proud gay man in Retroville, Texas. So in 2004, I applaud you, sir.
And did you catch of like what his costumes were?
A butterfly, something also super fruity.
The Michelangelo's David statue,
Yes, that was on the list.
full
Except when it's
naked.
freezing. Yeah, like he said something about the cold. And I was like, sir, please, these are your students.
Yeah, this not only just kids, your students, like, but I'm thinking, I'm like, he probably didn't dress up in October. He probably dressed up in June, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, maybe he dressed up as like a dog.
Uh, a different kind of cop.
Yeah, that. I want to know what in the early 2000s had all these fictional character creators deciding that Principal was a very gay job. Between Principal Willoughby, between the Arthur Principal, between we don't speak of the writer, but Harry Potter.
Ooh.
Like, I feel like it's a trend.
I don't know how that became a stereotype or trope. It's like, oh, I'm the principal of the school. It's like, oh, is this person a friend of Dorothy? It's like, I guess so.
Um, but Principal Willoughby, I approve. I did not remember that he was a friend of Dorothy when I was a kid. I probably didn't even register.
No, again, we were kids, where it's like, oh, like scary well, not even scary, but like, oh, fun adventures. Like, no kid is looking at Jimmy Neutron and being like, he invented this machine and he has cured no diseases, just none.
Yeah.
In
We,
fact,
we
he made a machine
he
that
caused
made
more
people
destruction.
sick.
He caused more destruction. That was my first episode of Jimmy Neutron. I do remember that.
Oh,
Yeah, that was my first episode. But he caused a lot more destruction. He's very much like the Marvel superheroes or the potentially the DC superheroes. They often cause destruction in their wake.
and it's
Yes,
like,
he might have
why
saved
does
the city,
it's like,
but
why does Retroville hate Jimmy? It's like many reasons.
I would I feel bad for his parents
I
because
mean,
they like people don't want to hang out with them because their son caused them to have to put a new down payment on a house or something.
yeah, it's like, hey, did you hear about the 8-year-old who destroyed the neighbor's house? It's like,
Because at least Phineas and Ferb don't cause destruction with their inventions.
there's a difference between hijinks and destruction.
Mhm. Um, well, we Carl's unwrapping the candy and he slices his finger and he drinks the blood from his finger and he wants more blood and he's turned into a real vampire, turns into a vampire bat, flies away. Then Sheen sees the full moon and he tries to attack Jimmy and Goddard and the hover cart escape. Have you ever tasted blood and do you want more, 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 more?
No, but if I taste my blood, will I also look like my head on bat wings?
I assume so. That's how the Jimmy Neutron cinematic universe did it because Cindy has the same thing happen to her later. Um, Also, I thought it was vampires have to suck other people's blood because I didn't think vampires bled.
That, or it's like, does it even taste good to them? Their own blood?
Yeah. I can vampires bleed? Let me Google this. Vampires bleed. No, vampires do not bleed.
But yet again, it's Jimmy Neutron. You play with the mythos.
Hmm. Um, Hugh accidentally falls into Jimmy's lab, inadvertently turns himself into Frankenstein's monster. Judy is like, "Oh my god, you made a wonderful costume." He tries to grab Judy, but she goes to put on her costume and gives Hugh a lighter. Who that causes commotion, and he runs out the door because, of course, fans of classic literature are aware of the fire and Frankenstein's monster. They also are aware of the evil stepmother trope, which Reed identified Missy and Baylor as.
Yes. Listen, public domain has big influence on our lives.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Are you a big Frankenstein head, or does it creep you out?
I love Frankenstein.
Did you watch pushing not what's it called, Poor Things?
Yes.
Did you think of Frankenstein with that?
I didn't think of Frankenstein with that initially. Have you seen Lisa Frankenstein?
No, I have not. But Cole Sprouse is in it.
Yes, and if anyone has not seen Lisa Frankenstein, do it this month. It's amazing.
Good to know. Good to know. But he was Frankenstein's monster. And then Jimmy asks Goddard what he knows about vampires, and he finds out they feed on blood of living, turn their victims into vampires, and are repelled by garlic and can only be destroyed by a wooden stake driven into their heart. Same thing about werewolves, but it's Mrs. Fowl who answers that question. She appears out of the fog, dressed as a fortune teller, and tells Jimmy about how the werewolves were because she was once married to one. She's giving Alex Russo slash Selena Gomez.
I know that reference, but I have not seen those episodes because I saw a clip of like TikTok of like when the Wizards of Waverly Place game like a dramedy.
Yes. Honestly, I think that's probably why it's like my top ranked Disney Channel show. I feel like because it was like an overarching story, it was like not a traditional sitcom like Sweet Life, like That's So Raven, like where you could just watch any episode and it resets at the end. Like I like the fact that Wizards and Hannah Montana had stakes.
That and so the scene with Mrs. Fowl, and I kind of do like the references because a lot of the monsters are based on the Universal horror movies.
Yeah.
And her line is just straight out of The Wolfman.
Would you want to quote it, or do you not have it in front of you?
I do not have it in front of me.
It's all
But
good.
yeah.
We'll talk about the parodies and the goofs later. Carl finds Cindy. He hypnotizes her. Did you know vampires can hypnotize?
Yes. Yeah,
I did not know that.
I think it's called like a murmur. I know they did it on True Blood.
Ooh, a big fan of True Blood is Snoop Dogg. Did you know?
I can see that.
um, Cindy is hypnotized. Carl bites her, transforms her into a real vampire. Sheen finds Libby. He bites her, transforms her into a real werewolf like him. Hugh goes to the candy bar where Sam is playing his violin. Judy comes by, says she needs help from giving out the dates and the raisins as the fruit snacks. Hugh does not listen, takes her in his arms, walks off, and Sam laments that he wishes he was married.
I have to say, I think Sam is the underrated MVP of the episode.
I agree. Sam's great. I forgot how much I love Sam as a Jimmy Neutron character. He is an underrated. Like I remember Mistress Fowl, but between this episode, us getting Sam and Principal Willoughby, I feel like we got some of the good B tier characters of the Jimmy Neutron cinematic universe.
Yes, and very random of how the going back to what was it? What was the movie that Hugh was watching?
I had it. Octopus Man, maybe. Yeah.
Octopus Man of the bus driver. It looked like the police officer in Jimmy Neutron.
Yes.
I was like,
I remember that. He also kind of looks like Carl's dad.
Yes. Hey, no shame for using models for animated TV.
Yeah.
Hey, writers, don't stress yourself, or animators, don't stress yourself. We stand.
Jimmy finds Carl and Cindy walking together, and then they chase him in the hover car. Cindy hisses at Jimmy. She's also dressed as Muffy the Vampire Slayer, which I thought was funny.
I love that.
Then Carl sinisterly tells Jimmy, Cindy has joined me. You two must me. Haha, it only takes one bite. And they try to turn him into a vampire, but they get them to turn away because there is a red. He tells them the Red Cross is having a blood drive, and they get distracted. They also see something that scares them. I believe it's a garlic store, or Lucky Tony's House of Garlic, which scares them away. Have you ever been to House of Garlic? I feel like that store probably smells bad.
I bet it smells like good. I don't think it's like fresh garlic heads. I feel like it's like a garlic aioli, garlic oil, like some like bouquet of like, I don't know, some good stuff.
Yeah, that would make sense. Well, a similar sequence happens because he goes to the alley to sneak back to the hover car. She and Libby sneak up, and they end up running away. They stand in front of a high-house silver jewelry store, which scares the wolves away. Did you know that werewolves didn't like silver bullets and silver things?
Yes.
I did not know that. Or if I did, it was so far back in my mind that I didn't remember.
Again, Felipe, you did not need this knowledge in your life.
You never know.
What if there's a rapture? Werewolves are involved in the rapture?
Potentially. You never know.
Well, maybe that's the one supernatural thing I don't know because it's all Bible stuff.
Yeah. Valid. I don't know much about the rapture either. What if there is a werewolf attack? Like, you never know.
I do like the joke in True Blood, going back to that. It's like one of the characters to cover, like, they're a fairy, and that's what jump the shark. But they're like, the other characters reacting like, wait, does this mean Santa exists?
That makes sense. I don't see the dislogic in that.
If werewolves exist, the chance that Santa exists is probably like pretty high.
Yeah. Jimmy sees his parents running down the sidewalk and realizes that Hugh probably turned himself into a monster. They attack each other. Hugh and Carl and Sheen all attack each other. Cindy and Libby start fighting. Jimmy ducks away. Judy breaks up the fight and tells them to all work it out among themselves. And when they do, they decide that they should fight the town. Meanwhile, Jimmy returns to the lab and turns himself into a monster. And he lowers the settings so his DNA, unlike the others, will not change. I didn't know you could do that. I just feel like next time Jimmy should just get everyone a really, really cool costume and not change their DNA.
Yeah, don't play God.
Jimmy loves to play God.
He's like, yeah, what's the worst that can happen?
Mm-hmm. Then we see them at the candy bar. Sam and Mrs. Fowl call up an angry mob, and they have all the equipment they need. They chase the monsters into the mini golf course. They all hide from the mob behind the windmill. But Jimmy comes to get them from the sky, and he plops everyone up. Hugh loves the octopus man, and they are picked up by Jimmy because he uses tentacle suction to take them back home, kind of like a magnet.
Yeah.
He drops them off. They turn back to normal, and they left their candy behind. But Hugh mentions that no candy on Halloween is scary. To which Jimmy says he can fix that and rings bells with his 8 arms. And Jimmy, in a scary voice, says trick or treat. And we get the words Happy Halloween on a card at the end.
So Jimmy retooled the machine. So basically, he won't become like the monster and be evil. But yet again, those red eyes, I'm not buying that.
Creepy Yellow, Jimmy Neutron, and a lot of these old cartoons love to end with like nothing being resolved in terms of the plot. Like you don't turn back to normal in these like weird episodes. So that's always stressed me out, is like the lack of resolution. And then we go back to the next episode and everything's back to normal.
Not in Wizards.
No, yeah. Not in Wizards. In terms of the lines, you say, yes, the Wolf Man from 1941, even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolf's bane blooms and the autumn moon is bright, as she recites. We got Cindy is Muffy, the vampire annihilator, in terms of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's Frankenstein, according to Sheen, when he references Gene Wilder's character in Young Frankenstein. And we see among the other monsters on the Maker are the Mummy, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, Octopus Man, Devil, Mr. Hyde, Dracula, the Phantom of the Opera, the Blob, the Hunchback of Notre Dame, Frankenstein, Werewolf, and Michael Jackson.
Well, yeah, sure, why not?
We find out Libby's a vegetarian. Cindy's blood type is A+. Which is the second most common blood type among humans. Only O+ is more common. And Hugh spins the wheel on the Monster Maker like he is on The Price is Right.
And also, Carl thought Libby was a Republican?
Yeah, that was weird.
Now, granted, Carl is dumb, but does he even know what a Republican is?
Was it Carl or Sheen?
I think Sheen said that to Libby. Probably I'm wrong, but
yeah.
Again, both characters are not that smart.
Which is why they're so funny, because like the voice actors do such a great job making them like chaotically stupid, where like Carl is like, he like plays the line between like innocent and like confident at the same time. Like he like, because Carl is so secure in who he is, but then he also like has moments of insecurity where he's like, oh, but it's like the asthma, or I love a cape. And then Sheen is just so confident. Thank you. I love Rob Paulson. And then Sheen is very like, Ultra Lord. And like he's just like so manic and stupid at the same time. Like I feel like there's such good sources for comedic relief, especially when you put them with like competent characters like Jimmy, Cindy, and Libby. Yeah.
I also feel like we did miss the opportunity for Carl to be the Phantom of the Opera, simply because we wanted to hear him sing.
I agree. Ain't no love of my man. Shoo up,
shoo bop, shoo bop.
Does Mrs. Fowl look like from Everything Everywhere All at Once? The IRS lady.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's something that ever since I saw that movie, I'm like, this intrusive thought will not escape my brain.
Well, if there's ever a live action movie.
Yes, I agree. Mark, anything else you want to add about this episode?
No, nothing that comes to mind, but I really liked the episode. It was a fun watch. And going back to what you said earlier in the podcast of how this episode doesn't stick out to you because of the big event stuff, which is totally fair. but maybe because this was always featured in their like Halloween block.
I think so. It's possible. Like, I love the Halloween episodes of a lot of shows. Like, I love. We also talked about the Christmas episodes a few years ago as well. So it's just fun to watch these episodes when the year rolls around to this time of year. I'd love like festiveness.
Yes, that's good.
Mark, is there anything else you want to add about this specifically, or should we start to wind things down? I know you're not going to be the only. This is not your only appearance on Brazilian Dragontober. Do you want to tease what you're going to be coming on to talk about?
Should we?
We can hold it a secret. People will see it eventually.
I don't know, but I think it might be a long Halloween.
Ooh, yeah. I'm excited to keep checking in with you throughout our series this month. But where can the people keep up with you? And do you have anything that you want to promote?
You can find me at Little Marco 512 on Twitter. You can find me now. I got a new writing gig. I am the gaming critic at Comic Book Resources (CBR). So check out my views for that. I'm been writing too much about games, but I'm having a great time.
Well, I am so enthusiastically proud of you because you absolutely deserve it. And you are just the absolute best. And I cannot wait to promote your stuff on my feed. And I dare everybody to go check him out while you are reading Mark's latest comic book review, whatever he is writing about. You can also go rate and review the Brazilian Dragon like Mark has on Apple Podcasts. I would really appreciate any ratings and reviews because it helps people find the podcast, especially with this big Brazilian Dragontober. Go tell a friend. Go tell a friend both about the Brazilian Dragon and Mark's writing. Right, Mark?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. And then we also have a lot more stuff coming through with the Brazilian Dragontober. I'm excited for everyone to see what we have going on, including weekly Scooby-Doo drops on Scooby Tuesdays.
Ooh.
Yes.
Can I plug in one more thing?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know if you were getting the opportunity, but your Patreon page.
Thank you. I appreciate it. No, yes. You can, if you like what we're doing over here, it's a product of love and hard work. So if you are interested in contributing financially, that would mean a lot to me. You can do so at patreon.com/Brazilian Dragon Productions. But at the very least, go rate and review on Apple Podcasts. That's the easiest way to help people find the podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. Like and subscribe, tell a friend. And, of course, if you can, I will not say no to some Patreon donations. Mark, what should the people be watching this Halloween? Any classic horror movie recommendations? Like, what is something that people absolutely should check out this Halloween 2024?
I think I mentioned it in the podcast. Lisa Frankenstein. It's actually directed by Zelda Williams, the daughter of Robin Williams.
I like that.
And it is set in the 80s, and it centers around Lisa, who is the nerdy outcast teen, and she's in love with this Victorian, only with the grave. She like romanticizes about this Victorian guy who died, and then all of a sudden he gets brought back to life, and she starts murdering people to reassemble him and make him more human.
Ooh, interesting.
But it's very 80s, very stylistic. Believe it's Catherine Newton.
Yeah,
I'm pronouncing that right. She was in
Ant-Man
Freaky.
Quantumania.
Exactly. Quantumanium. But that would be my pick. It's not that scary.
Yes.
It's not even really that scary.
This is on Prime Video and Apple TV Plus, I think. So that's what I'm seeing it on right now. So you can check it out there. You can also rent it on Amazon. Lisa Frankenstein. In terms of me, go watch Scooby-Doo Adventures, The Mystery Map, because that is unhinged and I want everyone to watch it.
Ooh.
It's a puppet Scooby-Doo, Mark.
Like they're fighting a puppet, or it's like
there's like the characters are all puppets.
Oh,
yeah,
I like that. And this is random, but it's about Scooby-Doo. Did you ever watch that Scooby-Doo episode of Supernatural?
No, I have not. Should I add it?
Absolutely. I feel like even if you don't know
It might be on the list already, but I'll
Supernatural,
check. I'll double check.
and for everyone who just knows, the two main characters, Dean and Sam, are transported into a Scooby-Doo
Well,
episode,
Jensen
and it's
Ackles
done.
seems like a relevant person to bring up with you and what we're doing here in October.
Oh, that's another good
And
tease.
Naya Rivera also, but we'll talk
Oh,
about that later. Yeah, anyways, you were saying they're transported into the Scooby-Doo universe?
yes, they are demon hunters, and one of the guys, Jensen Ackles, Dean, finds out he's a big Scooby-Doo fan, and all of a sudden they get transported into a Scooby-Doo episode. It's done in the same animation. I feel like as a Scooby-Doo fan, you would have really loved the tribute because they poured a lot of their heart into it.
I love that. I definitely got to check it out. But in terms of that, you can also follow my main at What the Fleet. But until next time, everyone stay subscribed to the Brazilian Dragon podcast for more Brazilian Dragontober. Obrigado for listening. Goodbye.